Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hare
Hare Rama
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Nitai Sachi Jayo Radhe Shyam Jayo Radhe Shyam Jayo Radhe Shyam Jayo Radhe Shyam Jayo Aindra Prabhu Jayo Aindra Prabhu Aindra Prabhu Jaya Aindra Prabhu Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare
Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Aindra Prabhu, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Aindra Prabhu. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Aindra Prabhu, Thakur, Jaya Aindra Prabhu. Jai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jai Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radhe Sam, Jaya Radhe Sam, Radhe Sam, Jaya Radhe Sam, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nice to see you, so many devotees again. Slowly, slowly coming up, you know. Stretchable time, yeah, you know that. So the program is we just had some nice kirtan, and hopefully we have much more. And between, we want to have some devotees come forward and glorify Aindra Prabhu, recall their remembrance of their association with Aindra Prabhu, or just in general. Even if you have never seen Aindra, how you're inspired by his chanting, mostly. But Aindra Prabhu is more than just kirtan. If you search on YouTube or many other media platforms, you will see Aindra Prabhu speaking very, very high philosophy. Not just high philosophy, more like I wanted to put it, very deep surrender and dedication and in-depth consciousness of applying himself to the process of Krishna consciousness. Not satisfied just going through the program of chanting your 16 rounds, going through the morning program, going through the motions, and something will happen. But is more important, the presence, right? How you're viewed by the other devotees, how much puja, pratishta, lobha you're getting, name and fame in your present material body. One time he was criticizing people, and he sarcastically said, after all, we are these material bodies. You know, that's how people think. And so he was not satisfied with going through the motion, and he, if you know him, well, we probably hear a lot more from different devotees. He was actually a unique personality. He was extremely giving his time every second, not just to the mediocre approach to Krishna consciousness, but he was going high. And not going high without actually doing his homework. And, you know, what do they say? First deserve, then desire. I think the amount of energy, dedication, time, body, mind, soul, It was beyond a sannyasi. What he put into in the pursuance of Krishna consciousness, he definitely deserved to be able to desire something high. All right? It wasn't just cheap talk. He was walking the talk. All right? So there'll be some glorification. And usually we have a feast served here for a lot of you. But because of the growing number of the attendants, a couple of years ago we ran out of prasadam. It turned into a whole fiasco. And people were angry. Devotees don't get their prasadam, they get upset. To the point that we didn't want this repeat itself again. So we're not able to cook for 1,500 people up in the ashram in our smaller rooms, because that's what we did in the past. So the temple is cooking. We sponsor the temple feast at 3 o'clock. So, and many of you here, many of the ladies are, and many other devotees, they don't want their names mentioned, contributed Lakshmi. They contacted me weeks ahead of time, and we ran into some surplus. But it'll be well spent on some new outfits for Nitai Sachisuta. We have more festivals coming up. We need mridangas. Mridangas are, what do you say? Not just expensive, but they don't last too long. Harmoniums, they don't last too long, even though we get the best possible quality we can. They cost 35,000 for one harmonium. We have one harmonium here. I think this is the one. It's been here since 2005. Can you imagine? Every day, every minute being played since 2005. So there's a lot of, it's a workhorse, they say. Okay? And of course it needs repairing, this and that. We have other harmoniums also, but so we need mridangas, harmoniums, etc., etc. So the money is welcome, the Lakshmi is welcome. So we appreciate your contribution. And so I don't know how long we are going, probably not until 3 o'clock. But when we run out of people who want to speak, we will have Pushpanjali. Mukundadatta Prabhu is coming, he's somewhere on the way. And I want to encourage many of you to speak. I know you're second generation, third generation. I don't know which generation it is now. But you must have some kind of appreciation if you're here in Vrindavan performing the Yoga Dharma under the tutelage of Aindra Prabhu, and must have come across some introspective thoughts about him and how he inspires you to do this service, giving your time and energy here in Vrindavan, instead of pursuing a career of college degrees and job and climbing the corporate ladder, etc., etc., so you can secure a nice, comfortable lifestyle for yourself. So something must be there, maybe, hopefully, a lot more than just something. And I expect a couple of you, because we face it, many of our senior devotees are leaving. They're not here with us anymore. And it's going to be less and less in the future. So you have to up your game and come forward. I'm not a public speaker, but here I am. What to do? You got to do the job, okay? So, I think we like to ask Panchagoda Prabhu, our temple president, one of our temple presidents, to please come forward.
It's very inspiring to see so much enthusiasm. When Advaita Acharya called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord, please come, only you can save the fallen souls of Kali Yuga. So Kali Kalir Dharma Krishna Nam Sankirtan. And when the Lord specially empowers someone, they're called Shakti Avatar. So we're not just giving some cheap names, because actually Krishna says, I am the ability in man. And without the desire, Krishna, he inspired Aindra Prabhu in a very powerful way, that, as Govinda Prabhu was saying, that he was very serious about not wasting his time with mundane activities. He was very serious about propagating the holy name, the intensity of calling out with purity and love. When he would dress Radhashama Sundar on the altar, he had deep meditation, and you can see that in the details, everything was there. Whenever we would be up in his room with his deity worship and everyone together, he would give time. He would discuss very thoroughly and encourage the devotees to dedicate themselves to this process of Krishna consciousness in the form of the holy name. You can imagine in the very earlier days when he came to Vrindavan wanting to do this 24-hour kirtan, it was challenging. There wasn't so many bodies around, so he would chant for hours and hours and hours, and those few that were coming and appreciating, just like when Srila Prabhupada was in 26 2nd Avenue in New York, just chanting, and a few followers would come, and then building it up and building it up. Now we see so much youthful energy, and also very talented musicians and devotees, not just for the talent's sake, but for the excitement of all sitting together doing the Yuga Dharma. I know Aindra Prabhu, he wanted to produce beautiful songs and spread them all over the world. Even before the internet was happening, he had ideas how to propagate the holy name all over the world. So I would say that he was empowered and given a special potency by the Lord, because without, Krishna says, Sarvasya chahang hridi sanavishto matat smritir jnanam apohanang cha. He's giving knowledge, he's giving remembrance, he's giving ability. So if you really want to do something and you're dedicated to it and very, very steady, Krishna, he helps you. He gives you that kind of inspiration and intelligence. So all of us are fortunate to have had and still have his association in Sri Vrindavan Dham. It's a special, dynamic, charismatic experience. I see when all the pilgrims come into Krishna Balaram Mandir, not only seeing the beauty of the deities, but the dynamic kirtan, you can see they become animated and they come to life. So that's our only life, the chanting of the holy name. We do other things out of duty and responsibility, but we should be steady, responsible, and enthusiastic. And Aindra Prabhu, although he looked very, very serious, he also had a joking, soft side, but he could also be very, very stern, very heavy, like lightning. Yeah, you know. And sometimes, often, he would sing with so much enthusiasm that basically couldn't even speak anymore. That's how much energy he put out. So this is Krishna consciousness, utsahan nishchayat daryat. So Aindra Prabhu expressed his desire to serve in a very intimate way in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram Radhashama Sundar, chant the holy name and inspire others to chant the holy name, setting that kind of example himself. Although a little esoteric, a little bit maybe the normal devotee would see him a little bit extravagant. Not extravagant in a, how you say, eccentrically extravagant. He was very eager to serve Prabhupada and push on the mission of Krishna consciousness. So I feel very fortunate. It's a wonderful day to remember Aindra Prabhu and Shri Aindra Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So I remember Aindra Prabhu, he liked to hit the high notes because the high notes is very sweet. And also it reaches, what do you call it, the top of your endeavor, of your calling out for Krishna and Radharani. And he would lose his voice. I remember when I moved here in the late 90s, and we would do 10-12 hours kirtan. And I had to play Mridanga and I was finished. In the summertime, in the heat, etc., for 5 years. And he was losing his voice. And often people told him not to sing so high. The Aindra Prabhu said, he says, I cannot stop singing high, I cannot stop the ecstasy. He says, if I lose my voice, I put it into samadhi, and that's it. But you cannot stop chanting Hare Krishna. Okay? I remember one lady, she was a little strange. She came up to him when Aindra Prabhu used to dress the deities on Saturday and Sunday. And after dressing the deities, he would come and, behold their beauty. And looking at his own work of creation, how he dressed them, the way he likes to dress them. And so this lady comes up to him and she says that, Aindra Prabhu, you're singing too high and you're going to lose your voice. And Aindra Prabhu is going to shrug his shoulder. He doesn't really care what to do. And she said, Shyam Sundar told me, she says, that you should not sing so high. She talks to Shyam Sundar, And Aindra Prabhu says, well, I don't care what Shyam Sundar says. I belong to Srimati Radharani. I follow her instructions. So she didn't know what to say. Just walked away.
Aindra Prabhu ki jai. I always hesitate, particularly to speak about Aindra, because I never spoke to Aindra Prabhu. I know, of course, we can come here and speak philosophically and things, but that's not my nature. If you ever heard my classes talking about Srila Prabhupada, everything's very personal. Aindra Prabhu was very personal. I told Govinda Prabhu, my wife's coming finally after many years. She wants to say something. Most everything I know about Aindra Prabhu is hearing from others, and particularly hearing from her, and how just the association she had with him is, affected her entire life. But see, we can understand the greatness of someone after he leaves, the mark he leaves on the world. And there's no question what Aindra Prabhu has done for so many thousands now and on into the future. And the potency, of course, is he took. Being with Prabhupada, I saw over and over again how the words of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how every word he said influenced Srila Prabhupada. Everything he said, he took to heart. And as Govinda was saying, Aindra was empowered. But to be empowered is not difficult. Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness, he said, is not difficult. Determination is difficult. See, that's the secret. That's what Aindra had, we say in the West, in spades. That determination, that just regulation, what was it, 1986 or so? 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. 1986. That's it. That's all you have to do in Krishna consciousness. Grab that one thing, that instruction from your spiritual master, make it your life and soul. It was his life and soul. And because he took it so seriously, he was able to pass on that purity of Srila Prabhupada, that determination, that enthusiasm. These are all qualities of the devotee, of the pure devotee. We've been hearing in the classes. Never, Prabhupada was never discouraged. That's not an easy thing in this material world. We speak about ISKCON in so many ways. I've been hearing from somebody over the last couple days, people from outside. Prabhupada did like this, Prabhupada said this, all these very negative things. And about women. And I had to laugh because I spent 2.5 years with Prabhupada. And I got to see how he dealt with each and every one, encouraged. That was Aindra Prabhu, that encouragement. But it comes when one, Prabhupada would say, when you're full, when you're satisfied, when you're happy. We know devotees happy. Aindra was happy. He was, I see, because I know some of these people like this now, fanatical about Krishna. And as soon as you said that, when that woman said, Shyamasundar told me, you shouldn't sing so high, I already knew what your response was going to be. I knew it. Shyamasundar, who's Shyamasundar? I only know Srimati Radharani, what she wants. I knew that was coming. So this is very wonderful how he's given us that. Again, others I see, this attachment to the personality of Godhead. And his attachment on every level to become so absorbed in the holy name. I know for myself, not an easy thing. 50 years later, I'm still trying to become attached to the holy name. He was attached all the time, constantly, and was able to give it to others. So I'll stop here. I want to thank all of you in the Kirtan party, particularly Govinda for staying in there. As he said, he's been here since the 90s. So this is a wonderful tradition to be carried on. Prabhupada liked traditions. He liked people to accept their service and perform it for the rest of their lives. See, that's what Aindra Prabhu did. That's what we have to do at some point. Anyway, Aindra Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Please, Prabhu, come. I remember when Dinabandhu Prabhu gave one Srimad Bhagavatam class, and he told us the story of Nanda Maharaj calling all the elderly gopas in the village, and they all claimed that Lala, right, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when Nanda Baba heard that, he broke out in Hasya Rasa, laughing, secondary rasa of laughing. And Dinabandhu Prabhu exhibited laughing on the Vyasasan for 5-10 minutes. And the whole temple was hilariously laughing and rolling on the ground because it just spread to everybody. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like this in Bhagavatam class. And then we discussed it with Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu says that Dinabandhu Prabhu has a heart. So, thank you.
Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Aindra Prabhu ki jai. So I was very happy to know when Govinda came knocking on my door. I'm still trying to recover from the Mayapur cold. But he told me tomorrow is Aindra's birthday, so her appearance day. So I said, yes, definitely I'd like to come be a part of it. It'd be a great honor. And as Srutikiri said, I never saw anybody so attached to the holy name. Aindra was a personification of attachment. I'm just every day begging that somehow or other I'll become attached to chanting the holy name. And Aindra Prabhu fulfilled one of Prabhupada's great desires for Krishna Balaram Mandir, that there be 24-hour kirtan. I remember when I was here for the installation, and that time we also had 24-hour kirtan going on. Somehow or other we divided up the periods between the countries, and those countries had the night shift nodding away. Somehow we managed, and Prabhupada said actual installation, because he got the local Brahmins to do the installation so that nobody would criticize. But he said real installation is this 24-hour kirtan. Of course, after the festival, then everybody left, so then 24-hour kirtan sort of faded out. And then when I joined in 1984, then somebody tried to make an attempt, but he was using hired people to chant. The hired chanting is just, Hari Rupi, Hari Rupi, 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 Hari Hari. But Aindra was very strict. He wanted people to chant just for chanting the holy name, because it's the holy name. It's the only way. So somehow or other, I saw with great difficulty he managed to keep the party going. He fulfilled this desire of Srila Prabhupada. And now I see we don't even have room. The devotees want to come and join the 24-hour kirtan. There's no more room for them to stay here in the ashram. Only conclusion I have is that Aindra Prabhu was sending people. He's up there in Golok sending people to join this kirtan party and satisfy Srila Prabhupada. He satisfied this one desire of Srila Prabhupada. Just like we were just in Calcutta, and the devotees in Calcutta, they satisfied one of Prabhupada's desires was that somehow there be a memorial built at his birthplace in Calcutta. So, of course, we're here to glorify Aindra, but there's a whole long history of all the difficulties that they went through to get this place. But now they've gotten all the little, it's all tiny little buildings, so they got all that is completely cleared out. They made a nice place, nice monument. And that jackfruit tree is 150 years old. It's very diseased. I told him, you get some tree surgeon. That's what we called for our tamal tree, which is, if you look closely, you can see little buds are starting to come. The blooms are coming very, very soon. So we got one of the best tree surgeons in Delhi area. His name was Nanda Kishore. I can't remember what his last name. Charma, probably. He was a nice boy. He said, I can guarantee only if Bank Bihari comes here and played under the flute is this tree going to go back to life. Because people were saying, giving so many ideas, but it was totally dried up. And he told us, you just plant a couple of trees around it. You cut off all the branches because they fall down, and they did. One day at Mangalarti, Devi Shakti almost got clunked in the head. A whole branch just went. You just leave the trunk and you plant some trees around it. They'll merge with that trunk, and 50 years from now, nobody will know that's not the original tree. But anyway, Krishna had other plans. Somehow the whole tree just went kaboom. So somehow or other, this tree had never, the last few years, had never given any fruit. But last year, it gave so many jackfruits. The devotees are very smart. They took the seeds and they planted them. Now they have like 25 jackfruit trees growing. Because as much as we'd like that tree to remain, it's 150 years old, it's not going to remain. But I told the same thing. You just plant a couple of them around this tree and cut off, if it actually dries up. We saw there was green shoots coming out from so it's still alive. but they fulfilled because Prabhupada wrote in his letter to my godbrother, Sankarshan Das Prabhu, that you get this place and build a memorial there. This was in May of 1977. So Prabhupada said, I really want that you obtain this property under the tree and build a memorial. There's a very beautiful memorial is there. The devotees from Calcutta have fulfilled Prabhupada's desire. In the same way, Aindra has fulfilled this desire of having this 24-hour kirtan. Somehow or other, as I said, I can only think that Aindra Prabhu must be up there sending people to join this kirtan. It's going on very gloriously, and so gloriously that I was in Mayapur, half the kirtan party was there, so I don't know what they were doing here. Half of Vrindavan was here. Only people I didn't see was Panchagoda and Dharmatma, but all the way up to our security in charge Srinivas I saw there. But half the kirtan party was, I don't know how they kept the kirtan going, but I guess Aindra sent so many people, it's going on. So anyway, we're very, very indebted to Aindra for this wonderful service. And we're very happy that these devotees are carrying on this program very nicely, and we give them all our Braj blessings that they continue year after year. Because actually, when we planted that new Tamal tree, that was the very same day that the 24-hour Kirtan, Aindra started his 24-hour Kirtan party. And so, Srila Aindra Prabhu ki jai. Or what are they going to call him? Namanandi? Kirtan Chandra Namanandi Aindra Prabhu ki jai. Because he was Namanandi, he was just relishing the holy name, and his face was just like the moon. You just see Aindra there pumping away in his harmonium chanting, so Kirtan Chandra Namanandi Aindra Prabhu ki jai.
Namo Vishnu Pada Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Aindra Prabhu iti namine. For 10 years since Aindra Prabhu left, I didn't have a courage to speak. I was always thinking I would be asked. For 10 years. The pain of separation was so hard that I couldn't do it. Those who were here with him, that group, not who were just coming and going, the ones who stayed through winters, through hot summers, the ones who did austerities with him, Kartik, the Katyayani Vrata, the Purushottama. He made us, the children, the generation, born and raised devotees, whose some parents were fanatical, the society was fanatical, but for us, many of you would understand, we understood Krishna differently. I grew up in a communistic Armenia, where just saying word Krishna, my parents and I would be put in jail. I grew up how my parents were fearless Sankirtan devotees. And when war started between Azerbaijan and Armenia, when we were in complete hunger, when in the -20 there was no gas, no heat, no water, no food, the only thing we had was Krishna and Prabhupada's books. We didn't have temples. I didn't grow up like many of you did. I didn't have opportunity to go to the temples. The only thing I had is Krishna and Prabhupada. So then, as a refugees who lost a house to bombing, who went into a year of hunger, we moved to Moscow, and there is a temple, there is devotees, and devotees bring Vrindavan mellows, the first tapes. They bring it from India. And it was already my teenage times, and I was having difficulties with my parents. I didn't agree that Krishna consciousness should be so pushed and forced. I'm sure many of you would understand. So For me, Krishna was my friend, my master, my everything. That boy, the black and white boys with whom I grew up, I didn't have friends. I had only the black and white boy. And reading Krishna book, all I did is cultivated my dream to be in Vrindavan. But somehow I didn't relate with the many devotees. I didn't. Of course, back in those days, our part of the world grew up with under the guidance of Harikesh Maharaj. It was hardcore devotees. I actually have a Mataji Gauri here. She knew me since I was a child. And her children grew up, and her stepdaughter grew up with me. We are different generation. They are generation of Prabhupada disciples, children who are Prabhupada disciples. And we're a generation of the children of 80s. Hardcore. But I am right now, looking back, I'm grateful for that hardcoreness Krishna gave me, because during the war, during the hunger, those children who were suffering in a famine, if I didn't know that Krishna will take care of me, it would be difficult. So then I was facing other difficulties, accepting Krishna and seeing how other devotees are representing him. Reading Prabhupada's books and seeing how Prabhupada represented him and seeing other devotees represented him were a little different. So someone gives me Vrindavan mellows. And every night when I would go to sleep, I would be crying. And at that time, we would have a tape recorders with the batteries. So I would charge up those batteries, and every night I would go to sleep and I would listen to Vrindavan mellows. 7 years later, I was in Vrindavan, and somehow I was always thinking Aindra Prabhu was Indian. The way his voice would vibrate, I was thinking he was Indian, Bengali. So, yes, when we listen to Vrindavan mellows, that's the style. Later on, his style changed, but Vrindavan mellows, maybe the recording, how they were, the tapes at that time, they were recording sound differently. So someone points out at this beautiful teddy bear with the red hair in the chadar, how he used to wrap around, and they say, "This is your Aindra." So I was thinking, huh? And of course I recognized him by his sound, by his voice. And that was it. I didn't want to go back to Moscow. I didn't want to go back to anything, because I found my kindred spirit. I found the person who felt the same about Krishna. And if he would tell me I have to chant, I have to give up everything, I have to accept Krishna and Prabhupada, I did it. Because he did it. There was nothing, he didn't hold back. There was no ulterior motive. There was no manipulation. There was, Krishna is the person, and I love him. Would you love him with me? Am I right? Right? Who was here with Aindra Prabhu? You were. For me, these people are my brothers. And the day when he left, right, Varun? We became orphans. Completely orphans. So I'll tell you how I heard that Aindra Prabhu was a little hard with his god sisters or elder women, but how he was with me. I'll speak from my experience. I was a 20-year-old girl, white Armenian girl, left my parents, and I said to my parents after I came back from Vrindavan, and I said, you raised me to be a devotee. I don't want to go to nightclubs. I don't want to try smoking, drinking. I never tried any of that. So I have that core Krishna consciousness, but I don't want to live that life like you do. I don't have the taste you have. I have a different taste. So within 5 months, I packed my bags and I told my parents, you want to see me, you come to Vrindavan. I moved here alone, 20 years old. And Krishna arranged everything. I left college. I didn't want to go through the education system. I didn't want to be brainwashed. Because I realized if I have to work, I have to be a piranha, that fish, that you have to eat someone to get on their spot. I said, I don't have it in me. I'm different. I have my spot. So what is my spot? So when I came here and I joined Aindra Prabhu's party, I remember it was after Kartik. I'm here, and we met from the door. So it's a Radha Shyama Sundar's door and the second door, where now it's big door. So he comes out of the door. I meet him there, and I say, Aindra Prabhu, right now I'm in your kirtan party, and I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be like the other girls. I want to be the girl that would be a part of the party, a part of the kirtan party. What should I do? How should I dress? How should I behave? How should I dance? And what he said to me was completely different than I thought he would. Like certain Matajis thinks that you have to wear burqa. Yeah, certain Matajis keep telling me that I have to wear burqa because they think that during Prabhupada's time, Matajis were dressed like this, like a Russian babushkas. Yeah, we know that. But then I speak to other Prabhupada disciple ladies and they say Prabhupada wanted us to look like gopis. Beautiful. But certain Matajis wanted that you would look like a Russian babushka because they look that way and they think if the Matajis who were hippies, and they were hardly dressed, when they were wearing those yellow robes, yellow sheets, they didn't even know how to put it. So this is how we have to walk. This is how we have to look for Krishna. But I grew up looking at Krishna and gopis in the pictures that Prabhupada himself approved. Like Shruti Kirti Prabhu, my husband says, the artist would send sketches to Srila Prabhupada, and then he would make comments on each sketch. This is how it should be, this is how it should be, this one have to have mustaches, this one have to look like this. But why? Did you ever ask why these all pictures we look at, they don't look like art pictures? Because they are photographs. Prabhupada took a photograph. And the artists who were painting them, they were the developers of the film. So when I was meditating, that hungry kid who had nothing to eat, my food was meditating on Krishna. So this was how I absorbed, that was my meditation. No, gopis don't look like babushkas. Gopis don't look like a hippies. Gopis look beautiful. So Aindra Prabhu said, and I will tell you how he said word to word. You dress as beautiful as gopi to attract Krishna's attention. And you dress as beautiful as gopi, so when people look at you, they will think of nothing but gopis and Krishna. When you dress, and he paused, when you dress, you must be thinking that I am dressing to attract Krishna's attention. And that is going to be your blessing. But if you dress thinking that I'm going to attract men, that is going to be your curse. So that was a shock. Because I expected, like I grew up in the Soviet times, or how certain other devotees, senior devotees grew up, you dress like a babushka so no one would look at you. But Aindra Prabhu said otherwise. That was shock number one. So then he said, and I really want Matajis, you all remember what he said. If you really value Aindra Prabhu and you actually respect these boys, that's what he said. Because at that time, I respected all of them. He said, don't you ever dance in front of my kirtan party in brahmacharis. Ever. You dance right there behind where the tamal tree is. That's where you dance. never danced in front of my brahmacharis. In all these years, if you remember, there is a picture, Krishna's hugging the cow. I danced there, and I danced only by the tamal tree. All of us, all the Gurukuli girls, we all danced there. And there is only one time we danced in front. It was the last birthday. Remember, we all came from the last birthday. We celebrated it at the Sundaris, and night kirtan was so beautiful. We all danced, and there is a still picture on the Facebook someone clicked. All the Maharajis, that was family. Them and I, all the boys were dancing there, we were dancing. Radha Shyamasundar were closed, that's why we were able to put our backs to the altars, and we were dancing there in a circle. Boys there, girls there. He was very protective of them. And he was very protective of us. He never discriminated women, but if the women didn't try to put a sexual vibe on them, those women he despised, young or old. You know. Yes, they know. And I know he spoke more things to them. But because I didn't do that, he gave so much mercy. It wasn't about being covered. It was being chaste. And that's what he always put in my head. Your husband is Krishna. Krishna is your husband. You dress for him. You be beautiful for him. You dance for him. You do everything for him. And that is your blessing. Don't do it for them, because that's going to be your curse. So when he left, I went into severe depression. Many of us did. But of course, men process it differently than women. For me, he was a father. He was a mentor, and he was kindred spirit. So when he left, I dropped everything, dressing, everything. And I was already getting together with my husband. And one day I asked, what would my Baba say? Would he approve? And I see him in my dream. He's sitting in the new Vrindavan with him, and they're giggling and pointing at me something, and I'm standing far away. And then from far away, I can hear Aindra Prabhu talk to me, and he does this. Where is your gopi kajal eyes? He does this. I told him, I don't want to do this anymore. You were that person. That was my connection with Krishna. I don't want to do it. He said again 3 times, where is your gopi kajal eyes? And you have to continue dressing like a gopi. Even then, he wanted to make sure I was doing his instruction. For all of you, there is a different instructions. For you, different. For him, different. It was my instruction. He was very protective of the women who were in love with Krishna. And he wanted to guide them towards Krishna. So when Jayapataka Maharaj got sick, the first day, it was right after we went to Radhakund. We went to Radhakund, we took a bath, and that night, Jayapataka Maharaj, he got his stroke. We got a news, and the first thing I did, I ran to him. I never approached him. I was very respectful. He's a brahmachari. I never been that woman who would be like standing and asking a lot of philosophical questions. No, it was respectful. So I requested him to have a kirtan. We all went to Prabhupada's house, and where's the library right now? Prabhupada used to sit there, the one who is sitting in the eating room. So Aindra Prabhu started chanting there. And since then, every night we had a kirtan for Jayapataka Maharaj. I would bring his big picture, and we would put him on the chair or on the small table at the Krishna Balaram's altar, and all of us, we would gather there and we would chant. It was already April. Jayapataka Maharaj got sick in November, end of October, November. It was already April. We would have those kirtans, and one day I bring the Aindra Prabhu is already sitting with a group. What? We would have it at 9 o'clock, right? After they would wash the floors. And he would say, Jayapataka Maharaj is the only ISKCON manager who is always attending kirtan. He always wanted that the managers of ISKCON would attend kirtan. Just of some time of the kirtan, that they will be there to express their love through the kirtan. And one time I called Jayapataka Maharaj and I said that we continue having your kirtans. Even he came out of coma and he said, I could hear those kirtans. Yeah, that's what he said. There is so much I can tell, but I would rather keep it for the Aindra Prabhu's disappearance day. I don't like then the stories they repeat. But I prayed to Krishna Balaram today to know what exactly I should say. And I should say one more thing to you. Be very careful with the name and fame Aindra Prabhu gave you. Making money on chanting, flying first class, demanding salary for chanting, Aindra Prabhu say you would go to hell for that. Yes. He always wanted you to be shaved. Yesterday I was listening to Radha Krishna. You remember Radha Krishna's hair, his Mexican hair. Aindra Prabhu took him to the barber and started cutting his hair. He wanted everyone to be clean shaved. Yes, sometimes he would have his little cute teddy bear hair, but all of you, he wanted to be shaved. I don't want to say that we have to follow what Aindra Prabhu did. It was his vrata. But us, he wanted to be according to Prabhupada's standards. And he would always say, you can copy my tunes, but you will never copy my mood. Why do you think we all are so in love with him? The purity. So when all of you chanting, what are you thinking? That's what he said to me. When you put a makeup on and dress, you think I'm doing it for my husband, Krishna. That is your blessing. So when all of you are putting makeup on Krishna through the holy name, when you chant Pavanitai Prabhu, yes, when you chant, it's so beautiful. And when Aindra Prabhu was dressing Radha Shyama Sundara so intricately, he would say, none of the pujaris do that nowadays. Radharani's hair and Radharani's garland on the head, they were all pinned, they were moving. Her skirt, everything was moving. Shyama Sundara's skirt, everything was moving because Aindra Prabhu say they're twirling in a dance. So he would chanting in such a way, and he was dressing in such a way that they were always dancing. So not only you have to make that devotees are dancing. Oh, it's a rock band. No, I don't dance with a rock band. I dance with Krishna. And that's what he said. Every Kartik, the Sharat Purnima, the first day of Kartik, last day of Kartik, you all ladies dress very nicely and you dance because today, on those 2 days, you're dancing in a rasa dance with Krishna. And every Kartik, those ladies who were at that time, that's what we do. Sometimes the kirtan is not happening that we would dance with Krishna. Oh well. But his purity of chanting would make you stand up. Your ribs would move. You wouldn't be able to sit straight. You would be clapping. That's what he said. The only way you can make Krishna attracted to you, you purely chant. But we don't have it. So that means you clap, you play instruments, you chant, you dance. He said, and when in the crowd, when someone's trying to attract your attention, what do? Right? In the crowd, you try to attract someone else's attention far away. He said, you wave your hands, you jump up and down, we clap, we dance. That's how we attract Krishna's attention. But to all the kirtan party boys, I'm asking you, do not perform, chant, like you are dressing Radha Shyama Sundara in the intricate melodies that they would want to dance. And the oldies like me, if you don't see me dance, you didn't pick up the crowd. Not because I don't like to dance or something. I know the purity of chanting. And I grew up in that purity. So if I feel it's a performance, I walk away. Because I want that taste to stay with me. All glories to Aindra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Aindra Prabhu ki. Aindra Prabhu ki. Aindra Prabhu ki. So I met Aindra Prabhu in 1992. First time I came to Vrindavan. I still remember. Came first time to Vrindavan and it's coming straight to my eyes. He was coming out of Gurukul. And he saw me. He said, "Where are you from? I never saw you." I told him I came from Punjab. And first thing he asked me, "You know how to play kartal?" I said, "No, yeah, I know how to play kartal." I said, "I play guitar also." He said, "Okay, come and join me." Panch Gora Prabhu was there. He was the one who kept me in his shelter with Aindra Prabhu. So first I joined 24-hour Kirtan with permission of Panch Gora Prabhu. And I remember he was, that time I think he was recording first of his CD, 92. Madhav Prabhu was there, Govinda Prabhu was there. Madhav was not there, Govinda was there. And I think Purnachand Prabhu, Gopinath, yeah. I remember one day in 2:30 in the morning, Purnachand Prabhu came to me. He said, wake up, you are going for recording." I said, 2:30 in the morning, what kind of recording? He said, "We have to record the birds, peacocks." I said, "How, in the morning time, how we can record the bird and peacocks?" So we went near Yamunaji, there was a lot of field was there. And Aindra Prabhu was with us. And he said, "Please quiet and sit down here." And you can hear the morning, as soon as the bell ring, 4:30 in the morning, the peacocks going to, and birds. And we were recording that. That was in the first CD, I think, when they record that first CD. Meow, yeah. We were actually, first day we went, we just did peacocks, and next day we went for the birds and all this thing. And then he asked me, "If you can play Dilruba." I said, "I never saw Dilruba before." But he said, "You play guitar and you play sitar, you can play Dilruba. I'm recording the CD. You come in night time in my room, 10 o'clock. I said, "Night 10 o'clock? All different timing, His timing was totally different. Morning 2 o'clock and night 10 o'clock, So I went to his room. He showed me. He said, "Okay, you have to do this. You play Dilruba in my first recording." So I did that record for him. Then Panch Gora Prabhu asked him कि he can serve for the temples. Panch Gora Prabhu took me out from the 24-hour Kirtan and gave him the service. I was working under Mahaman Prabhu that time and Panch Gora Prabhu. But I have a very, very good relation with him. He's like my Shiksha Guru. Many years we used to come from America. And first thing he say, "Okay, where's my donation? You go to America and Canada, make some money and come and bring for 24-hour Kirtan." So, very, I don't know how to explain, but very, very good brothers. He was always, whenever I tell him, "You are my guru," he said, "No, you are my young brother. You are my friend." 96, 97, I came back from Canada, and he knows my wife Gora was singing and all this thing. Actually, he is the one who gave Gora money, blessings. He said, "Please chant." We were chanting in front of Prabhupada Samadhi because Mataji was not allowed that time to sing in the temple. But his blessing, we start doing Kirtan. He said, "Please, you both are preacher, go outside and preach." So many instructions we get from him. And he was always very dear to our heart. I still remember, we all were in Toronto. Akinchana Prabhu, Gopal, Madhava Prabhu, we all were in Toronto when we got this news about Aindra Prabhu. And we were not believing. Nobody was, wishing somebody called from India, because we all were in Toronto Rath Yatra. Amal Harinam, Vishwambar, everybody was there in Toronto Rath Yatra that day here. And then they asked me to call India and find out this is true or not true. I called to Adi Keshav Prabhu. And Adi Keshav Prabhu said, yes, this happened, this thing has happened. And we next day was Rath Yatra, and we were just finished 12 hours Kirtan. Bhakti Marg Swami was, everybody was very disturbed. He said, okay, just sit down. We went to the temple. We started doing Kirtan. We did Kirtan whole night. Amal Harinam, Vishwambar, Akinchana Prabhu, Gopal, Madhva, we did Kirtan. And next day we had because Bhakti Marg Swami was concerned if there's no Rath Yatra, tomorrow is going to be a big problem. So he said, Aindra Prabhu always say, please do Kirtan. So we finished the Rath Yatra, and next day we start living from there. I think Gopal came to India. Next day Gopal came. You was there also? No, that Gopal came to India. Akinjan Prabhu was with us. So please, this is the best service Aindra Prabhu gave us, doing 24-hour Kirtan, and that was his soul. Whenever we go to him, he always talk about 24-hour Kirtan. Always he was involved. Anybody come from outside, he wants them, gave them a chance to sing in 24 hours Kirtan. So my all request to you, please keep going and never leave 24-hour Kirtan department. Hare Krishna.
Ram Roy Prabhu doesn't need introduction to most of you, but if you don't know, he started Harinam Sankirtan on the streets of New York, Sin City, exactly 10 years ago. And he's been going for 10 days without fail, not missing one day. And I lived in New York for 10 years. It's a tough city, tough place. People are rough, and the modes are very strong. And so, all respect to Ram Roy Prabhu for his wonderful service. If I can find it. Of course, I don't have my glasses, but here. Aindra Prabhu. Dear Aindra Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. On this happy occasion of your appearance day, I simply pray that I can think of and remember you more and more. The best thing that I have ever attempted to do has been to try against all odds to serve the Harinam Sankirtan mission in New York City. It came about rising like a phoenix from the ashes of my profound grief over your shocking departure. This attempt has been my way to try to find you again, somehow or another, through all the seemingly endless time and space, and to attempt to show sincere gratitude for the great blessing of have being so closely associated with you for so many years. We have just observed the 10-year anniversary of the New York City Harinam with a grand 3-day festival, a permit for a stage in Times Square on Friday. Hari Hari Bo. Times Square is the most attractive tourist place in New York City. And Fifth Avenue is going through. Prabhupada said the most important street in the world, Fifth Avenue. So it's a great achievement. Kirtan Mela in the temple on Saturday and observing your appearance day on Sunday. Many devotees came from different parts of the country, notably your Vrindavan Prabhu and his wife came from California. Having the association of all these devotees is a sure sign of your and the superior devotees' satisfaction and blessings. I pray to you today to bless this effort to continue even after many time in this life comes to an end. Even after my time in this life comes to an end. My hope against hope is that my endeavors will lead me to you. Your servant, Ramroy Das.
Amagyana timirandasya Gyanan Gyana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Such an auspicious day for us here in Vrindavan to celebrate one of the generals of our founder Acharya in spreading the holy name of the Lord that affected thousands, nay, tens and thousands of devotees all over the world and more in the future. One of the most best quality that I've noticed from Aindra Prabhu is simplicity. He is not a very sophisticated personality, and that's why the purity of chanting of the holy name is so much intact and natural when he sings the holy name of the Lord. I think we have to learn from this, because the Yuga Dharma, which will be prevailing for the next 10,000 years, will be so much immense that, yes, in every town and village, the Lord's holy name will be sang and heard. So for those of us here in Vrindavan, and for those who are hearing or listening or seeing us, they should also be, as Prabhupada would say, infected by this contagious mood of Vrindavan, because purity is the force to be effective in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and will be able to catch the conditioned souls to partake in this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The purity must be there. And many devotees, many centers all over the world also would like to follow in the footsteps of the devotees who are involved here, especially in the 24-hour Kirtan department. We should be proud being in Vrindavan, set the best example, be chaste. We know as time goes by, Kali Yuga will become more and more intense, and therefore we should guard ourselves more not to be attracted by Maya. Maya is very heavy, but the holy name is heavier. It is only how we can apply this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that will really affect our hearts and the hearts of others who will hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So I'm very thankful here, especially the devotees who are involved, following in the footsteps of Aindra Prabhu, who is trying to bring and preserve the legacy that he started. We should not disappoint him. He should be proud of us more and more in the future. So much so that the holy name of the Lord will be the real Dharma for this day and age. Hare Krishna.
We have Gopal Prabhu, who is at present, he's in London, and he sent me his offering. Hare Krishna, please accept my most humble of dandavats at your feet. All glories to the Yuga Dharma. The 24-hour Kirtan revival began on the Ram Vijay Dasami Day in 1986. That day commemorates the Vijay, victory, of Lord Ramachandra over the demon Ravana. But the Param Vijayate, the supreme victory, Lord Chaitanya declared, is Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, the loud chanting of the holy names of Krishna, because that chanting conquers not only bad qualities, but ultimately birth and death as well. Not only that, but it is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar we always hanker for. And so, on the auspicious day of Ram Vijay Dasami, the 24-hour Kirtan restarted under the auspices of Aindra Prabhu, and it remained so for the next 24 years until your departure, now in the hands of many great souls. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas at the age of 24, and performed Sankirtan both publicly and privately for the next 24 years. Aindra Prabhu also lived in Vrindavan for 24 years ago with the intention of dedicating his body, mind and soul to the Sankirtan movement. Kshetra Sannyas, which you did with your pure love for Krishna, also for a period of 24 years. Aindra Prabhu had the potency to stay in one place and affect the world. This is shown by her expression of devotional service. The real point is the intensity of purpose, letting go of the petty, mundane attachments and focusing on our goal. This is Aindra Prabhu's example and our challenge. And we can take heart from the example of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who preached vigorously in Bengal and fought against many deviant sects, but later became discouraged because the deviant groups he had fought to expose and whom he had subdued for some time were coming back again. In his despondent state, he had a dream in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to go to Jagannath Puri and establish a bhajan kutir near Haridas Thakur's samadhi and just chant the holy names there. His chanting, Mahaprabhu told him, will purify the whole world. In the same way, you lived in ISKCON, Brahmacharya Ashram, your room, Bhajan Kutir, near to our beloved Srila Prabhupada Samadhi, and affected the world by your pure chanting of the holy names. I pray that you bless all the devotees in the world today to really understand there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way besides Sankirtan Yagya. Braja Krishna Prema Ki Jai. Panchanga Bhakti Ki Jai. Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. 24 hours Kirtan Ki Jai. Aindra Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
I was not so fortunate to associate with Aindra Prabhu. Actually, most of us in the ashram right now, in the 24-hour Kirtan, it was only, I think, Baladev who saw him when he was a little kid in Nepal when Aindra Prabhu came to renew his visa, and one other devotee. But the rest is a whole new generation, which is so inspiring, actually, because it shows how much preaching Aindra Prabhu has done and is still doing. It's, and he wasn't like a big, externally he wasn't doing, like some big Pandal program or millions and millions of books or although he did do so many things in New York. He had a truck, and it used to open up. There's pictures. It opens up and turns into a temple, and he did hours and hours of kirtan on the streets. which is now being continued by Ram Roy Prabhu. One thing is that these persons that have associated with Aindra Prabhu, they have something very special about them in their kirtans and, in their association. I remember I met Ram Roy Prabhu here in the Krishna Hall, and I just told him, nice kirtan, because, I saw him leading, and he was like jumping up and down, and he's quite old, and he looks like a, senior devotee, but the way he was jumping, I was kind of like, what's going on here? So I just told him, nice kirtan. He spoke to me for 2 hours in the sun with a gamcha on his head, a wet gamcha on his head, right in the sun. And he told me that I should just do Harinam and I should not do anything else. I was staying in Australia that time, and he told me that you just go there, you just do Harinam, you stop doing everything else, and Krishna will look after you. To some extent I tried, and it really, now I'm here in Vrindavan, so Krishna does look after you if you simply do Harinam. But it was so potent, and he said one thing that time. He said that I was with Aindra Prabhu for 30 years, so something must have brushed off. That's why you liked the kirtan, so to speak, of being with the original fire. And one thing that I was thinking of is that all of us in the ashram, specifically, we have a really wonderful opportunity to live exactly like him, to have the same experiences that he was having. And experience burns brighter than imagination. That was what you would be inspired to do when you hear about Aindra Prabhu. That look at this person. Look at how all these devotees were saying how he's moon-faced, and how Mataji was saying that Krishna is a person, and I love him, and will you love him with me? That's really such an experience, and you have to experience that. And Gopal said, Panchanga Bhakti ki jai. That's very nice. There's 64 angas of bhakti, so many of them, and 10 things to do, 10 things to not do, and so on and so forth. But the main are Panchanga Bhakti. And if you observe Aindra Prabhu's life, he was, you could say, the personification of this Panchanga Bhakti. He was living in the Dham. That's one of them. Mathura Vas, staying in Vrindavan. And, in so many of his kirtans you hear in the recording, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. And also he mentioned that in one lecture, he says how out of all 5 angas of the Panchanga Bhakti, there's one that you can do constantly, very easily, and that's Mathura Vas. Simply by staying here, for 24 hours a day, you're constantly doing, Mathura Vas. And then there's Bhagavad Shravan, which I guess he facilitated a lot because he would give classes which are Vasant Panchami lectures, 3 hours long, 3 hours and 40 minutes. It's quite interesting also. You get absorbed in it, The seva we have upstairs, it takes some time. So you put his lecture, and suddenly 3 hours has gone by and you have no idea, So much absorption. Only someone who's so absorbed in hearing Bhagavatam can speak such Bhagavatam. And also Ram Roy Prabhu was saying how he has these, he's recorded these books, audiobooks with his voice. And Aindra Prabhu used to hear them while doing a Shalagram puja, because it takes quite some time to put oil on all the deities and bathe them 4, 5, 6 hours. So he would hear this constant Bhagavad Shravan, Mathura Vas, deity worship, which he was expert at. Practically the whole movement now is doing things. You see, before Aindra Prabhu, you see how the deities were dressed. I mean, it was beautiful and it was nice, but they kind of look like butterflies, The chadars is simple, and it's also stiff. Yeah, no movement, like Mataji was saying, making Krishna dance, no rasa. But also nice. There's like the picture where Prabhupada is doing the chamar, and Krishna Balaram looks really wonderful. But Aindra Prabhu brought something completely different, very similar to his kirtans actually. He's like started a whole revolution. And it's so much in the spirit of the acharyas, You read the works of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, you see Prabhupada said one time, yes, as I write on every word, I am trying to create a revolution which will change the entire course of human history. That's how Prabhupada is thinking as he's writing these purports. And Aindra Prabhu, one thing is, we're so lucky, we have an Aindra Prabhu preaching to us, but Aindra Prabhu didn't have an Aindra Prabhu preaching to him. Whatever he got from Prabhupada's books, exclusively. And that's also so inspiring, because we have this opportunity to just go through Prabhupada's books, and if you really read Prabhupada's books, you'll feel like creating a revolution, And Prabhupada is simply taking it from his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. You read his work and you see, yes, he really created a revolution. And that's also coming from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's desire to create this revolution, And that's coming from the six Goswamis, and that's coming from Lord Chaitanya. There's a verse, it's a really nice verse. I don't remember the verse verbatim, but it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says that Rupa Goswami's body is non-different to Lord Chaitanya's body. I don't know if anyone knows it, but it's a very interesting verse. And the explanation is that simply because Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam. It means that Rupa Goswami has understood the mind of Lord Chaitanya. When you understand someone's mind, then you become an extension of that person's body. Because, your body works with your mind. And when someone, you can experience this in Kirtan. When you have some devotee that's very connected to you, then when he's playing mridanga or assisting you, or in any seva really, then you feel like one body. You feel like one, that's Sankirtan actually, coming together in this way. So Rupa Goswami is recognized to be non-different to Lord Chaitanya's body, because he's understood the mind. So his activities are now an extension of Lord Chaitanya's activities. And this is our sampradaya. This is how it's coming. And that revolutionary spirit is coming from Lord Chaitanya himself. It's descending down through all these great personalities. And Aindra Prabhu really has this. Revolution means revolution. It means you have to turn this movement inside out, upside down, do whatever it takes to put Nam Sankirtan back into its rightful position of dignity. And look at the effect. It's the most effective method of preaching. Maybe some people were thinking, oh, he's not representing Prabhupada because of the way he looks, or externally it appears like that. But look at what he's done. We're all here. We're chanting Hare Krishna, the prime Jaiva Dharma of every single jiva, because of this one person. Persons who are not at all interested in Krishna consciousness. Interestingly enough, when I first joined, well, I didn't join. When I first started coming around to the temple, I had no faith in anything, because I was like, come on, these are stones and people waving incense, and it's just some Hindu religion. How can God be a blue boy? I was pretty convinced. It made sense. Being an atheist made sense to me. But then I heard the kirtans of Aindra Prabhu, and I heard the kirtans of the devotees in the temple singing those tunes, and experience burns brighter than imagination. You can sit and imagine what it's like, but when you're there in the kirtan, then this is it. I don't want to do anything else. And then the relationship with Krishna manifests more and more and more, and the relationships with the devotees. Also, I find it so interesting is that, you have Vyasa Puja for such and such spiritual master and so on and so forth. But here, this personality has attracted such a variety. There's all kinds of Prabhupada disciples and disciples of different gurus, and they're all coming together because Harinam is supreme. And Nam can attract everyone, anyone. It doesn't have any external. You might have a completely different ideology. Someone's really liberal, someone's really conservative, and so on and so forth. But just come and sit down in the kirtan. Just come and chant Hare Krishna, and there'll be transformation in your heart. So we were not fortunate to be in his kirtans, or to speak to him, or to be around him. But I still feel that we have the same experience. We're in Vrindavan. It's not an ordinary place. We have such beautiful deities, Radheshyam and Krishna Balaram, Gaur Nitai, and upstairs, Nitai Sachisutta. Yeah, I think I'll stop here. devotees. Jai. Sripad Aindra Prabhu ki Jai.
All glories to Aindra Prabhu, who was determined to develop Srila Prabhupada's instruction of the 24-hour kirtan in Krishna Balaram Mandir. I am in awe of all the young men who are following this instruction. It may seem so easy to sit down and chant Hare Krishna as part of the 24-hour kirtan service. Yet, it is a challenging service to offer every day, regulated, steady sadhana, clean behavior, representing Prabhupada in the public eye. Can you sit down and settle down? Prabhupada always offered Hare Krishna Kirtan as a meditation, same tune, easy to follow. So one could go deep into the holy name of Krishna. These young men are wonderful devotees following the proper behavior of a temple Kirtaniya and take up the Sankirtan mission of Srila Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu and I had a brother-sister relationship, quite comical actually. He would always encourage us ladies to spontaneously dance or sway with the Nam Kirtan and catch others to join in. To hear him speak about hearing and chanting under the Tamal tree, or in the evenings in Dwarkadish's old shop, was a great pleasure, knowing I was in the presence of a great sadhu. I pray I will reach out for Prabhupada's and Lord Nitai's lotus feet when I cannot breathe. Thank you all 24-hour Kirtaniyas for continuing and developing this most important service under the wise guidance of Srila Prabhupada, Panchagoda Prabhu, and somebody else, and Aindra Prabhu, always in your heart. Jai. Thank you.
Panchakalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. There was one time when I was staying in the ashram with Aindra Prabhu, and one of the other devotees, who was a very good devotee and did a lot of very nice, valuable service, it was before the time of any technology. Nobody had any phones or anything like that. And there was one of the brahmacharis in the department, he went to see the World Cup. And he did that by finding a grihastha devotee that had a television, and he went to that person's house, and Aindra took me to I was in Aindra's room, and he was telling me that so-and-so Prabhu, he went to watch the World Cup. And I thought he was going to be super heavy about it. And I thought he was going to be really, really heavy about it and say something very strong, as he definitely could do. But he was actually very nice about it. And he just spoke in a very strong, in a very sober way. He said, when we begin to come to Krishna consciousness, we give a little to Krishna and keep so much for ourselves. And then more as we advance in Krishna consciousness, we give a little more to Krishna, but still are keeping something for ourselves. He said, so the goal is to give everything to Krishna. So he was appreciating that person. He wasn't overly chastising that person. We just saw, okay, something that person kept for themselves also, even though they're doing so much service. But Aindra Prabhu, he didn't keep anything for himself. He gave 100%. He was that example of someone who was 100% surrendered without any deviation or distraction or any other kind of fault. I just remember his mood at that time, how he was speaking. Aindra, if you think of the song of Narottam Das Thakur, Gauranga Bolite Habit Pulaka Sharira. Yeah, thank you. So Narottam Das Thakur is praying, when will I cry when I'm chanting the names of Krishna? And Aindra was one very rare person that we saw could do that. The really sadhana bhakti means to do activities for the purpose of attaining bhava bhakti. One of the symptoms of bhava bhakti is shedding tears. So with Aindra Prabhu, we saw out of thousands and thousands of devotees, who can cry for Krishna really? He was someone that could do like that. He writes in his book, there's a line I appreciated, just one simple phrase. He says, revelation comes by priti bhajan. At a certain standard of Krishna consciousness, one may get very direct type of reciprocation from the Lord. And in Aindra's case, he told so many amazing experiences that he had, like spiritual experiences. Even he said in a few places, he describes when he first joined the temple, within the first days that he joined, he had a vision of the previous acharyas that came to him and preached to him very strongly and said, in your previous life you have made some mistake, but this Krishna consciousness movement is your chance in this life to perfect yourself and to go back to Godhead. So don't ever leave this Hare Krishna movement. And he got convinced by that. He says also he was doing Harinam Sankirtan, and also within days of joining Hare Krishna movement, he had a vision of Krishna and Balaram along with the cowherd boys running, like as if they're running through the pastures of Vrindavan. He had a vision like that. Also, he also would say about so many kinds of amazing spiritual dreams that he would have. He had dreams about his father. His father passed away, maybe it was around 2000 or something like that, 2001 maybe, around those years. And his family contacted him after he had been out of touch with them for so long. And he said, when he first heard from his family after that long gap, he was thinking, anyway, now I consider myself like a gopi of Vrindavan. I've renounced everything. I'm not concerned about my material family anymore. He said, but he had a dream. He had a dream where he was told that his father was a fallen disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that his relation with Aindra Prabhu was his arrangement for deliverance in this life. And so Aindra Prabhu, he wrote this incredible long letter, this handwritten letter, which it's one of my huge regrets that we lost that letter, but it was maybe like a 10-page written letter that he sent to America, and along with some tulsi beads and I think some copies of his CDs also. Anyway, so he did make some arrangement for his father. He got him tulsi mala. He had heard from Shastra that if anyone is burned at a cremation and there's some tulsi wood in that fire, that person will go back to Godhead. So he made that arrangement. Anyway, like that, he had dreams about his father, dreams about his book. Srila Prabhupada gave him instructions about writing a book. He had revelation about his eternal relationship with Krishna. Amazing, like very, very esoteric things. And he mercifully shared those experiences to give some idea of what is possible if one fully surrenders oneself, if one completely renounces sense gratification. One devotee, he told me a very nice story. he was with Aindra Prabhu in the early 90s, some earlier mid-90s, I think. And he said he went to Aindra Prabhu, and Aindra was like smiling, looking at his Nitai Sachi Sutta deities. And he just had like this like great radiant smile to him. And he was speaking to his deities, and he said, "It's finished, it's finished." And this devotee said, "What's happening, Aindra Prabhu? What are you talking about? What is it that's finished?" He said, "For so long, I was praying to my deities to be freed from lust, and now it's finished." So, so Aindra was showing a very powerful example, a very exalted example of full dedication, full surrender, and then the incredible reciprocation that could come from that. Someone might complain, why is he freely speaking about his spiritual experiences and the revelation that he's experienced? But I think that there's some shastric support for that. If you look at the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Gopakumar is also explaining so many things about his spiritual attainments. And he says, usually it's not said, but for the benefit, I forget, maybe he's speaking to a Mathura Brahmin. I forgot exactly the story, but he's speaking to someone else. Gopakumar is speaking about his journey. And he's saying to encourage that person. So, Aindra Prabhu, I felt he's a great shining example that shows that just by staying faithful to Srila Prabhupada, by serving in Srila Prabhupada's mission, by wholeheartedly dedicating oneself to Harinam Sankirtan, that all kind of perfection is absolutely possible. We saw different devotees feel that they have to leave our society because maybe they cannot get the highest things here. But Aindra was a very powerful example disproving that point because he was he was maybe doing better than what we saw from people going outside, so much better generally. And by staying inside, by serving Srila Prabhupada. I didn't exactly prepare anything today, but I think that's what I want to say. Thank you very much. All glories to Aindra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
My dear Aindra Prabhu, crying at your lotus feet, I very fallen humbly offers my prayerful gratitude at your lotus feet. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, to engage us at the lotus feet of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada and the Goswamis of Vrindavan. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, for your premai, selfless service of Nam Sankirtan, 24 years of 24 hours, Akhanda Nam, at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, Nitai Sachi Sutta, Krishna Balaram, and Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundar. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, for uplifting my soul from the dark age of Kali by giving the topmost Raja Prema Bhakti, Premanam Sankirtan. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, for all your austerities and sacrifices to light the whole world by your Premanam Sankirtan performance. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, for lighting the sparks of Premanam Sankirtan in everyone's heart, especially in the hearts of all youths. By your grace, we have many youths performing Nam Sankirtan in all over the world, especially in Vrindavan 24 Sankirtan party. Thanks, Aindra Prabhu, to giving us the most beautiful treasure of Sri Nam Kirtan albums of your divine love for Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundar. By hearing your albums like Vrindavan Mellows, Raj Vilas, Prayer to the Dust of Raja, Chintamani Nam, and Kirtan is our bhajan, one can transcend to the lotus feet of Radha Shyama Sundar in Vraj Prema. So I have an experience when in 2002, I received the audio cassettes of Aindra Prabhu. It was the Vrindavan Mellows. I heard and it broke my heart. It is really affecting. I was hearing back and forth. There was audio cassettes in India, those days, and I was thinking, who this person is. And I inquired about the devotee who offered me these cassettes. And he told me, this is Aindra Prabhu from ISKCON Vrindavan, who performed the 24-hour Sankirtan. So I had a desire just immediately to meet him. And I approached some devotees in ISKCON Delhi. And they were like, oh, you stay here, be brahmachari, why you want to just meet Aindra Prabhu? So people were like a little bit, showing their shadow talks. They didn't want me to introduce Aindra Prabhu. But my desire was more, going like fire. And I just decided, no, I will go Vrindavan myself. So I made a way, and it was 2003. Met Aindra Prabhu after the kirtan, and he has a very, smiling like in a moon, very big face, and he took me upstairs to his room. And so we had you meeting Aindra Prabhu, all the devotees, those who knew him, experienced Aindra Prabhu was talk for 3 hours and 4 hours. So he started talking about Nam Sankirtan and telling me the tattva, presenting the proper and the very beautiful meaning of Nam Sankirtan. And he goes till midnight 12. That is in his room, He wouldn't let me go out, It's he has no time and hands in his clock. So, and he was explaining very beautifully how Srila Prabhupada desire was to do 24 kirtan, because this is the heart of Vrindavan, heart of Radhishyam and Krishna Balaram. So Aindra Prabhu, he was very wonderfully explained that that this is Nam Sankirtan, this is like a Rasa Leela, and Nam Japa is like a Nikunja Leela. But then we are so sick in this dark age of Kali, so you need an injection. It doesn't, our disease cannot, immediately go away by tablet. So Nam Sankirtan is like an injection. So he re-established the 24 Kirtan, and so he wanted us to be very sincere, take up the responsibility, and I'm very, very grateful that Aindra Prabhu, he gave me shelter in the Brahmachari ashram. And from the beginning, when 2004, he was telling me, why are you wasting your time? You just come to Vrindavan, and stay with us and do 24 kirtan. So I'm today here just because of his mercy. Otherwise, I'm nothing without him. And still, as Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar of Devotion, that one must have connection with Ragatmika Bhakta, like Aindra Prabhu had a connection with Srila Prabhupada and Radharani, Shyamasundar. So we also trying to make a very deep connection with Aindra Prabhu, and he really takes care. I had a recently dream from Aindra Prabhu, and he came from Golok Vrindavan, especially he was wandering in Krishna Balaram Mandir campus and checking each one of us how we doing this Sankirtan, if you're serious about it or not. Then in the dream that Panchagora, everybody was so astonished and everyone offered him respect, especially Panchagora Prabhu and elder devotees. They gave him a garland and asked him to give a class. So he was like, it was like millions of moons, and I just fall crying at his feet. Oh, Aindra Prabhu, you left us, we miss you so much. He said, why I am here still in Krishna Balaram Mandir? I am here because I actually care all of you. I'm here to take every one of you. So please take the process very seriously. So there's always, and once I asked Aindra Prabhu, I was with Varun and we went upstairs in his room, and I asked Aindra Prabhu about some questions about japa. So Aindra Prabhu said, no one should perform the kirtan on the microphone unless you have chanted your 16 rounds. Otherwise you will spread the anarthas in everyone's heart. So you must chant 16 rounds, and then if someone offer you humbly, to chant. Otherwise, it's a very big responsibility. So Aindra Prabhu was very real, and he very beautiful moments when after the night shift I would go upstairs. So everyone talk about, very well spoken about Panchang Bhakti, as Pavanitai Prabhu was saying. And so Aindra Prabhu was very much inclined towards discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially Srila Prabhupada purports, and he was very much falling into love with Srila Prabhupada books. So Aindra Prabhu said, I have studied Srila Prabhupada books something like 100 times. That was Aindra Prabhu. And he said, more than I read books, I double the chant. I go and chant. So his favorite book was Brihad Bhagavatamritam. And Aindra Prabhu said, you must study the Brihad Bhagavatamrit, and I will be very happy to do conversation with you. So you promise you're going to finish in 6 months Brihad Bhagavatamrit. So there are a lot of things to say, a lot of stories, a lot of beautiful time when Aindra Prabhu never cared, and he just goes with this, nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, like overnight till Mangala Arati, and every night was just like repeatedly happening. I said, why Aindra Prabhu just want to catch me up? He said, because I like-minded people, those who can understand. And once he asked me what do you think, what do you feel in Krishna Leela? What is your connection with Krishna? So I just mentioned randomly, I feel like worshipping the gopis, the footsteps of gopis. He said, oh yeah, that's the right thing. I also feel like this. So we must go for more discussion. So he was always into the discussions. And fortunately, today I am begging at his feet that I may serve in the dust of Aindra Prabhu's lotus feet, life after life after life after life after life after life. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, for engaging me and empowering me to serve Guru Gauranga, Radhisham, Nitai Sachisuta. Thank you all of you, Prabhus, Mataji's. Hare Krishna.
Первый раз выступаю, потому что у меня проблемы с английским.
I'm speaking for the first time because I don't speak English.
И я хотела рассказать, как первый раз я увидела Аиндру Прабху.
I wanted to tell how I met Aindra Prabhu for the first time.
Он был очень экстравагантный, это была Картика. И Аиндра Прабху, он всегда одевался не вайшнавскую одежду. У него была просто гамча, вот так завязана через...
He was very extravagant, and it was during Kartik, and he was dressed not in a traditional Vaishnava way, and he had a gamcha wrap around his neck.
И когда я увидела, что он ведет киртан, и когда пот течет, и черные такие вот, это белые полосочки, у меня он был очень материалистичный, и я даже не услышала этого киртана.
And when he was chanting, he was sweating, and a sweat was dripping over him. So my mind was very, very materialistic, and как вы сказали? Я не...
Даже не слышала киртана.
And I didn't even hear the kirtan.
Но когда мой сын, он пришел с киртана, и он сказал: мама, я встретил такого вайшнава, он поет, и в каждом слове есть Кришна.
But his son came and he said, Mother, I met such a Vaishnava, and in every of his word there was Krishna.
И он сказал время, что приходи завтра, и ты его увидишь.
And he said, come tomorrow and you will meet him too.
И когда я пришла в это время, которое он сказал, я просто поняла, какую я совершила вайшнава апаратху.
And when I came at the time that my son told me, I realized what kind of Vaishnava aparat I committed.
И когда я осталась на киртане, и я вдруг поняла, насколько глубок был этот киртан, что когда утром я проснулась, этот киртан звучал у меня в ушах.
And when I stayed for the kirtan, when next morning I woke up, I understood that that kirtan was still playing in my ears.
И когда я уехала на Украину, один преданный, он подошел ко мне и сказал: Нандимухи, если у тебя будут лишние деньги, пожертвуй, пожалуйста, Аиндре Прабху, потому что он содержит полностью группу киртана.
Well, when I went to Ukraine, one devotee came up to me and says, Nandimukhi, if you have any money, please donate it to Aindra Prabhu, because Aindra Prabhu is maintaining the entire Kirtan party.
И так как я здесь молилась Радхарани, чтобы я оставила свою работу, то, приехав домой, эта работа ушла от меня, на которой я зарабатывала деньги. И
Покороче, чтобы я запоминала. And I was praying to Radharani that I would leave my job, and when I came there, she lost the job.
И мне пришлось распространять картины.
And she had to distribute pictures, the art pictures.
И у меня ничего не шло.
And she could, and she wasn't successful.
Но когда я вспомнила просьбу этого преданного, я подумала, что я буду часть денег жертвовать Аиндре Прабху, и картины сразу пошли.
And when she remembered that devotee's request, when she decided that she's going to donate part of that money to Aindra Prabhu, then she started distributing those pictures, and she was successful.
И когда я приехала в Индию и пожертвовала ему деньги,
and when she came to India and she donated money to Aindra Prabhu,
он смотрел на меня такими влюбленными глазами, что я просто обалдела. И он сказал: ваше служение, что Радхарани мною довольна, и, в общем, он это делал с такой любовью, что и переводчик, он просто, тоже сказал: я не понимаю этих чистых преданных.
When she gave the money to Aindra Prabhu, he looked at her with such in-loved eyes, and что он сказал по поводу Радхарани?
Что ваше служение, оно очень большое, великое.
He was very pleased, and he said that the service that she offered, it's a very big service. And the translator who was translating English to Russian, he said, I truly don't understand those pure devotees.
Но я реально поняла, что он ценит только служение, и вот эта любовь, это просто отношение к преданным, не было никакого вожделения.
And then understood that he truly is valuing the service, and there was no lust in that.
И он мне потом подарил вот это Vrindavan melons.
Later on, he gifted her the Vrindavan mellows.
И очень благодарил, и листочки туласи с его божеств.
And he was very grateful, and he also gave the charantosis from his deities.
Он сказал, что этот один листочек дороже всего богатства во всей вселенной.
He said that the leaf from the lotus feet of those deities is more valuable than anything in the world.
И когда моя мама узнала, что я пожертвовала, кто-то ей донес, что я пожертвовала Аиндре Прабху больше, чем ей.
And when her mother found out that someone told her that Nandimukhi Mataji donated to Aindra Prabhu more money than she gave it to her mother,
она его ненавидела лютой ненавистью.
She truly started hating Aindra Prabhu.
Но когда она говорит: как ты могла какому-то певцу, а не маме?
She said, how could you give money to some singer, but not to your mother?
И когда я ей сказала, что этот киртан у меня каждый день звучит в ушах, она стала ходить на этот киртан.
And when Mataji told her mother that the kirtan Aindra Prabhu is chanting is always playing in her ears, her mother also started to attend those kirtans.
И она получила от Аиндры Прабху очень великую милость. Она оставила тело на Радхаштами.
And she got a very big mercy from Aindra Prabhu, and she left her body on Radhashtami day.
И я не могла понять, почему мама получила столько милости.
And I couldn't understand why her mother got so much mercy.
И на одной Вьясапуджи Аиндра Прабhu, не помню с каким учеником Прабхупады, он делился своим сном.
And during one Vyasa Puja, Aindra Prabhu with some of his god brothers, he was sharing his dream.
Он сказал, что я сижу, играю, и вижу Радхарани, она в духовном мире и наблюдает за мной.
And he said that he's playing his harmonium, and he sees that Shrimati Radharani in spiritual world, she's watching him.
И мимо проходит Нарада Муни.
And Narada Muni is passing by.
Она останавливает Нарада Муни и говорит: Нарада, кто это так красиво поет?
And she stops Narada Muni and she says, Narada, who is chanting so nicely?
Он говорит: это мой ученик Аиндра.
And Narada Muni says, this is my disciple, Aindra.
Она сказала: ты знаешь, вот когда он оставит свое тело, я его возьму в свою группу киртана.
And she says, when he will leave his body, I'm going to take him to my kirtan party.
И потом она говорит: ну скажи еще ему, что и те, которые вместе с ним поют,
And tell him that those who are chanting along with him,
я их тоже возьму.
I will take them too.
И тогда я реализовала, почему моя мама получила столько милости от Шримати Радхарани.
And then I realized why my mother got so much mercy from Shrimati Radharani.
И в прошлом году ее подруга оставила тело.
And last year her friend also left her body.
И тоже в Радхаштами.
And also on Radhashtami
И мой
day.
сын говорит: мама, смотри, бабушка взяла свою подружку с собой.
And her son says, Mom, look, grandma took her friend along with her.
Я очень признательна Аиндре Прабху за его киртаны. С 2000 года, вот я пела, даже с 99 года я пела вместе с ним, и я так признательна за то, что он изменил мое сознание, за то, что изменил мое сердце.
Since 1999, I'm chanting with Aindra Prabhu, and I'm so grateful that he changed my consciousness.
Он мне давал личные служения, он просил меня: Нандимуки, слушай, вот каждую картику и Гауру Пурниму мои мальчики падают. Пожалуйста, садись возле меня. И вот все матаджи, чтобы первый ряд были замужние или пожилые.
And he would have a request to her. So he said, during Kartik and Gaura Purnima, my kirtan party boys are falling. And I'm asking you, so you would sit right like between them, that the first round of Matajis would be you and some married Matajis, older senior Matajis.
И проси, если девушки очень красиво играют на инструментах, чтобы они не играли.
And please request if the girls are playing nicely on the instruments, so they wouldn't play during the kirtan.
Что мне приходилось делать.
This is what she was doing.
И еще, он давал возможность служить его божествам, делать украшения.
And he also gave her opportunities to make jewelries for his deities.
Аиндра Прабху ки.
Krishna, Om Agyan Temanandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshur Omnitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I would like to start by telling how I came in touch with Aindra Prabhu. So I was a young IYF boy, and if you know what IYF is, generally they are on a trip where generally they won't attend kirtans, and they will have their own seminars and lectures and all that. So I was in Mayapur that time, and fortunately one day I sneaked out of the lecture and I came to kirtan, and I heard this kirtan and it was out of the world. I did not know who he is, but my heart was on fire. I was like, I could not understand what happened exactly. Like, how can it was a completely different experience. It cannot be described in word. It has to be experienced. It has to be relished. And people who have attended Aindra Prabhu's kirtan, they can understand and they can relish it. They can experience it. So next day, I again came for his kirtans, and I thought maybe I should try to speak to him, maybe get some sort of association and things like that. So what happened? Generally, Aindra Prabhu would not be alone. Like, when a senior devotee comes out, you will see that many people are with him, and you won't get a chance. That day he was the only person who came outside, and there was one other devotee who was asking him something about some question about GBC or something like that. And the first line I heard from Aindra Prabhu was, "You tell GBC that first they should deserve and then they should desire." And by that time, I got that much training that devotees are generally humble. They won't say, that they are the best and something like that. So the first thought that came to my mind, that either this person is very highly egoistic, or this person is completely on different level. He has transcended all these, levels of understanding. So then, I got association of Mahabhagavat Prabhu and other devotees. I came to know about him. I started hearing Aindra Prabhu's lectures, and there are so many wonderful things I heard. There's one lecture where he says that my room is not different from Nitya Navdeep. I have two Sarups, and he's speaking like that. Yeah. There's a lecture, 15-minute lecture there. And then there's one lecture where he says, the lecture name is After Damodarashtam Gatha. And then he says that the famous quote that he says, "I'm not a lesbian," like that. And then he says, "I will take everyone back to Godhead who helps me." And then he says, "If you are stopping, if you're not serious about it, going back to Godhead, then I'm not going to stop." So those things struck very hard to me. I was like, wow. And then I decided, and that time I was a brahmachari in temple. I decided to join Kirtan party, and I came to finally talk to Aindra Prabhu, I had mustered some courage to talk to him. I came to him. I could not get a chance. My then spiritual authority told me, Aindra Prabhu sings every day, you can wait for a day, go tomorrow, And that day was 16th July, when I thought that I can attend this Kirtan next day maybe. So on 17th July, I decided, Raghunath Prabhu was there with me in the same party, and we were told, you can attend tomorrow. So next day, I think it was a Saturday, if I'm not wrong. That's what I'm saying. Friday he passed, and Saturday morning Yes. Yeah. So Saturday morning I started roaming around outside his room 5 a.m. in the morning. If he comes, I will talk to him. And then he did not come. I came around 5:30, 6:30, and then the tragedy happened and he left, and I was shattered into pieces. So all these years I have been trying to serve him in my own ways, and what I wanted to really share, what I have understood, is that the whole world is looking towards 24-hour Kirtan party. What we we all are the upcoming leaders. There were senior devotees who were saying that you are the leaders, and Prabhuji also said that day by day senior devotees who were there, they are leaving this world, and somehow the baton is with us. So many years ago, Vyasaki Prabhu gave a Prabhupada offering here, and he said that the baton is in our hand. So similarly, the legacy of Aindra Prabhu is in our hands. Whether we take it forward or whether we stop it here, it's up to us. But if you hear Aindra Prabhu, he was very clear that he was not interested in people who are just good singers or good mridanga players. He wanted devotees to read Prabhupada books, to be very good in Siddhanta. And if we want to follow Aindra Prabhu, really, we would be very good in Siddhanta. And of course, Achar and Prachar, we have to be good in personal behavior. And our Siddhanta, our chanting, and that will reflect when we do Kirtan. Many people can sing very nicely. They can have good effect on public. But the real effect is what transforms their heart. There are many good Kirtaniyas who can do awesome Kirtans, public will go wild. But what happens after that? Will that public start chanting? Just like we all heard Aindra Prabhu's Kirtan and we are here, we're trying to somehow do something about our spiritual lives. But that is not happening, at least I can say about me, that I'm not able to give that same to others. So yeah, I think that is something what the Kirtan devotees need to work on. Really need to have exemplary sadhana, exemplary behavior. Just like Aindra Prabhu, many times when I speak to some devotees, I tell them that imagine if Aindra Prabhu would have been like us. Will we be attracted to him? No, right? Because he set up a very high standard of being a Vaishnav. And we are so fortunate that we have a person who did it, who showed it how it's to be done. So I think with that, I just want to read one very important quote, and it's very important for all the Kirtaniyas. It's from his book. I request you to get his book and read it at least once. Although he says that don't touch it unless you read all the Prabhupada books, else you will not understand it. And he says, we must always remember that we are persons. Krishna is a person. The holy name is a person, and we are all unique individual persons who need to personally conceptualize the unique personal goal of our chanting before we can expect our chanting of the holy name to yield the superlative personalized fruit of Krishna, of love for Krishna. Before we can expect our chanting of the holy name to yield the superlative personalized fruit of love for Krishna, we personally require to be all we can personally to be personally satisfied, that Krishna is personally satisfied with our personal attempts to please him in all personified personal sweetness. So I think what he's trying to say that spirituality is not a vague concept. Sometimes it's a motto, in Hindi we say Jivan ka lakshay Krishna Prem. The goal of life is Krishna Prem. But that Krishna Prem is a very specific thing. Even if you read Aindra Prabhu's book, he is very specifically defining what he wants in service. So I think, and then he goes on to say that chanting with specific wrong conceptions bears specific wrong results. Chanting with no specific conceptions bear no specific result. Chanting with specific inferior conceptions yield specific inferior results. And unsurprisingly, as one might reasonably gather, chanting the holy name with specific super excellent conceptions yields specific super excellent results. Ye tha mam prapadante tam sate bhajameham. It's not all one. So, as Kirtan leaders, we need to really conceptualize the highest, conceptions that Aindra Prabhu is giving. And I recently read, I was hearing one class, and he was quoting that the servants of Madhura Ras are valiant, they are not weak. They are very powerful devotees. So we have one powerful devotee here. So I would like to end by saying a prayer. Tader charan sevi bhakti sanivas, janma janma ho ye bilash. Srila Aindra Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you so much, Govinda Prabhu. Sorry for coming so late. We just came straight from Govardhan. We just have a couple days here in Vrindavan, so wanted to take my wife. If you didn't know, she's pregnant, so she could bathe in Radhakund. I feel very honored to be able to share some words about Aindra Prabhu, especially in Sri Vrindavan Dham, where he's like a local hero. Of course, he's an international hero because he's affected so many lives. So I didn't prepare anything, but thank goodness that Krishna gave us memories, even though it's Kali Yuga memory. But in Aindra Prabhu's association, it's hard to forget interactions with him. And even though I got a small dose of his association, I feel like it's been a dose that I can take for my lifetime. And I give that credit to my father, because my father's a very intense communicator. you know, his eyes get big, and then he like likes to look in the depths of your soul and, you know, raise his voice. So then when I met Aindra Prabhu, and, you know, and he would, come on, boy, you should read more, you know, like, for me, I was like, okay, yeah, it was like a normal conversation, you know. I was like, oh, I'm speaking like an expansion of my father, you know, that intensity, that passionate communication I kind of grew up with. So when we would have conversations, I would go to his room, I felt like that intimidation factor wasn't really there. In a sense, I can just continue to ask more and trying to go deeper into the conversations. And I'm very grateful that he revealed the things that he revealed. I'm sure he revealed with many of the devotees here. I feel very fortunate that I was able to share these conversations in person. And, you know, these interactions varied. I mean, I remember very relaxed experiences where he's laying down, playing his harmonium, Srila Prabhupada melodies on the harmonium, and then some devotee walks in and says, Aindra Prabhu, you know, there's one car here, we want to bless the car. Can you come please do kirtan? And he was like, he was laying and he was like, oh, do I have to do that? And they're like, please, Aindra Prabhu. And he's like, what's the car for? They're like, it's for Harinam Sankirtan. Okay. And then so we all followed Aindra Prabhu, and actually it was right here. The car was parked right here. We did a short kirtan, and just in that short little walk and conversation, he revealed certain things. He explained to me he was writing a book, and he also told me that Vishnu Chakravarti was his favorite. And also more intense experiences where, you know, he revealed the pastime where, you know, he saw Krishna's beautiful face. And I remember when he started explaining that, it was like he was seeing Krishna's face again. And he started to go into ecstatic symptoms where his eyes started swelling up. And I remember he said, you know, and I try to forget his face, but I can't. And he just started crying. And I remember that really pierced my heart in a very positive way. Just, wow, we can have this personal relationship with Krishna. Or another time where I asked for his blessings. I was traveling with a Kinchana Krishna Prabhu and some other friends. We were going to Rishikesh to do some Harinams for like 3 days. And so I approached him and I asked him, you know, please give me your blessings. And first he was like, wait, why are you leaving? And I was like, oh no, we're going with a group of friends to do Harinam. And he's like, you can't do that here? And I was like, yeah, but it's a nice group of people. And he was like, all right, well, he was like, it's good that everyone should stay in Vrindavan, but I understand. And I was like, so please give me your blessings. And he said, I don't have anything to give. And then he paused for a moment. And then he said, actually, and then he put his hand out like this, and he said 3 times in a very loud voice, he said, read on, read on, read on. And seriously, no trying to create a mystic pastime. I felt energy coming to my body from his hand. I felt, and I told somebody this pastime, some like advanced sadhu, and they said, oh, he gave you a Shaktipad. I was like, and there's a backstory to that, because one time we were having a conversation and he said in his, explanation, he said, Ragamarga. And I don't know yet, like, the lingo. I grew up, Sarana Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti. Like, so I asked him, I was like, wait, what is Ragamarga? And he goes, boy, you don't know what Ragamarga is? And I was like, and he was like, Raganuga Bhakti. And I go, oh, Raganuga Bhakti. I go, okay. And he goes, you should read more, boy. And so, and then a few days later, I asked for the blessings, and he said, read on, read on. And so I took his instruction very seriously. Up till then, I forget my age, but basically when my mother passed away, I started taking Srila Prabhupada's books very seriously. I was 19 years old. So it was soon after that. I already read all the small books. And, you know, we studied the memorized verses in Bhagavad-Gita and studied, but never really myself, like, try to dive deep into the purports. But after that blessing in Rishikesh, I read the Bhagavad-Gita in 3 days, just like absorption, where I was feeling, you know, this reciprocation. And then I came back to Vrindavan and then started reading the Bhagavatam, and I couldn't stop reading, and I just had like maybe a couple weeks, a week, 2 weeks left in Vrindavan, and I read the whole first canto. Then I kept on going, and then somehow, you know, in my life situation, I started traveling around and sharing kirtan. But his blessings stayed to read on, because I just, the Srimad Bhagavatam, I felt like in my personal journey saved my life. And I continued to read the whole Bhagavatam, read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I really feel like it's because of that direct Shaktipad from Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu ki! And also another thing I remember about his, just one last short one, is that okay? Just last short? Another lesson, you know, we learned in doing kirtan with him was that he was actually very inclusive, and especially to those who he felt like were ready to participate and give it their all. Like if he knew you were that type of, you know, kirtan bhakta, if he would see you in the outskirts, he would make space for you. Even though it was packed, he would call you in, you know. And one time we did kirtan, and I was there next to Amala or some other, and we were trying to sing the high notes with him, looking at his fierce eyes. And so then there was that connection. And so whenever he would see me after that, he would always call me in, even if I came late or this, and, you know, sit right here. And, you know, he really brought this team effort, teamwork in kirtan mood, where it wasn't just about one person, the singer or the mridanga player or this. You know, I mean, I saw, the first time I saw Aindra Prabhu was actually when I came to Vrindavan when I was 12. And unfortunately, at that time I was 13, I broke my leg here in Vrindavan at Denuka Ashram. Really bad break. And His Holiness Ritataja Swami was taking care of me and made a custom like prop for my wheelchair, where, you know, my leg, because, you know, I broke it here, and in India, you know, you break a bone and you try to fix it in this hospital in Mathura. Not such a good idea. So, you know, I broke one leg, right? I remember them putting me to sleep, and I woke up with 2 casts. One cast all the way to my hip, and the other cast, half cast of my leg. And I remember as soon as I woke up from, it was like my brother said 8 hours, I was just gone. That when I woke up, he saw my face, I was freaking out. I was like, what? What's wrong with me? And he was saying, no. So, and then he explained what those doctors said. Anyways, it ended up being that when we went to the Apollo hospital, they completely removed my right leg. They go, nothing wrong. What they thought was a hairline fracture was the joint. and then they reduced my left cast to half. So it was a more like human situation. And but before that, you know, I would walk in, and Maharaj, you know, he would bring me into the temple for Aindra's kirtans, because in traveling within the summer trips, there was different boys from Mayapur Gurukul, Vrindavan Gurukul, and they would tell us pastimes, and you know, in 1998 was the first time I heard Aindra Prabhu's kirtans, and I thought he was Indian. So when I see, you know, a white fellow with kind of reddish hair, I was blown away. And then, you know, I remember my first kind of memorable experiences when they pulled me in. I'm sitting there, and my brother and Jagannath Kirtan are playing mridanga for Aindra, and my leg is out there, and I see someone spacing out on the kartals, and I just see a book thrown. It was like the song book thrown to the kartal player. He was like, play on beat, you know? And he was also very encouraging. I remember after that kirtan, he told Bali and Jagannath Kirtan, he goes, you guys got the funk. And so he had this whole mentality of when we're in kirtan, there's no spacing out. All hands on deck, he would say, right? He would yell it sometimes. All hands on deck, and you're, oh my God, okay, and then focus, you know? And one time, you know, he's singing this really complicated melody that, to be honest, I was completely lost. I was just like you know, going, and so he sang, and then the response was super weak. There was like no response. And then he just stops the kirtan, like in the middle of the kirtan, and he goes, what the hell is going on here? Right into the mic, and I was like, whoa. And then he says, yes, if you listen to Nam, you get benefit, but if you chant, you get 100 times or more the benefit. And if you're having difficulty learning or singing the melody, then pray to Krishna to give you the intelligence to be able to sing along. And then he started again, and I was like, wow, Aindra Prabhu ki jai, you know. And also different other pastimes where he stopped another time during the Shringadev's appearance day, and he told us, Vaishnavas are lion among sheep. So when we chant the holy name, we roar like lions, you know. And then all the devotees started singing much louder. And, you know, so these little glimpses and experiences, you know, we've been able to have with Aindra Prabhu is definitely life-changing. And I'm so grateful to be able to have had that experience. I brought my father to the room where it was just us three for like a couple hours. And speaking more like about ISKCON and you know how you know, anyways, different, you know, getting takes of his perspective and how it can grow and everything, and it was all positive. And I really hope that I can sincerely serve Aindra Prabhu by chanting properly and sharing that enthusiasm with others. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaura Premanandi.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirisesa Sunyavari Paschatya Disatharine. So, for me, as a god brother of Aindra, Aindra was always a mystery to me. So I call it the Aindra Tattva. And I really just wanted to come and listen so I could understand the Tattva, because I don't really understand it that well. I didn't have a lot of personal association, so I observed the Tattva from a distance. I lived here in Vrindavan in the late 90s for about 3 years, so I got to observe the Tattva that way. And the other way I observed it is through the lives of the devotees he changed. Many of the devotees whose lives he changed I knew when they were very young, and wayward, and bewildered, and lost. And as you were speaking, as Tapan was speaking, one thought came to me, which I think you were alluding to, or going in that direction, is that Aindra had obviously had a taste for the holy name. He obviously knew how to chant, and he was reaping the benefit of Shuddha Nam. And so he taught us that there is a Shuddha Nam, and that people born outside of Vaishnavism can actually get there, and if they get there, they're going to have deep realizations, and they're going to advance very quickly. And one of the things I fear when we have these meetings and remembrances is we all think, oh, that's in Aindra and this is me, and there's like a huge difference. And I think the greatest way you could please him or satisfy him is to be like him as much as possible and to chant as purely as possible. Because as Tapan said, it's very easy to show off, and it's not easy to be humble. And you can't show off and chant Shuddhanam. You can only be humble and chant Shuddhanam. And if we don't chant Shuddhanam, we're not going to move very quickly in our spiritual life. And we can even move backwards. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, we could water the weeds with the holy name. So I wanted to at least throw this out to everyone, that if we ever think that's him and this is me, yes, in some sense, no one is going to be like Aindra. He's unique. But in another sense, in terms of the pure chanting of the holy name, as Tapan said, he took it seriously. As Krishna Kishore said, he took it seriously. And that's why he got the result. And if we take it seriously, we'll also get it. Now, those of you who are associated with him or know him, you can think, especially today, I have to report to Aindra. So what's my report? How am I doing? How is my sadhana? How is my japa? You have to report to him. What are you going to say? Okay, we'll give you a week. You can get it together this week. What do you want to report to him? And those of you who know him will know what he's going to say if you fall short. So I think rather, it's like in the famous Vyasa Puja, that Prabhupada said, just a festival of fruits and flowers is not the real Vyasa Puja, but one who follows the order of the Guru. That is the real worship of the Guru. So, it's easy to glorify, and then just go home and go to sleep. Eat the prasad and go to sleep. That's easy. But to actually follow the example, follow in the footsteps, that is different. And I think that's his life, in a sense, goes to waste if we don't do that. That all those examples go to waste if they fly over our head and think, oh, that was just him. That can't be me. But it has to be me. It has to be all of us. And then he lives on in us, through us. And we can say, yes, he truly inspired us. Then we can say that. He truly inspired us. But I want to tell one story. As I said, I was observing Aindra mostly from a distance, just being around the kirtan, watching devotees come to the kirtan, some of them who I knew when they were young, and seeing their transformation, and then also hearing his comments in the question and answer comment section after class, which were always like, I don't know how we would describe it, but not exactly about the class, something like, we're talking about, the Earth planet, and he's making comments on the sun, the moon, or Mars, or just like way out there. And I never really said anything when he'd comment. I would just say thank you, because there was nothing I could really say. Even if I didn't agree with it, I didn't dare not agree. So, that's another way of saying he wasn't like everybody else. He didn't speak like everyone else. They didn't say the same things that everyone else said. But we could understand, at least I could understand, this is the consequence if you're doing that much kirtan and you're actually doing it properly, you're getting a lot of realization that you can't just get by reading a book. You can just, go in one ear, one out. You could repeat it, regurgitate it. It may sound like you understand it. But what he spoke was realization. And, like I said, I would just observe it and say, okay, something's going on here with him. I don't exactly understand what it is, but something's happening because this kirtan is amazing and so many people are being attracted to it. So I'll tell one story. I first went to Mauritius in 1982. At that time, Madhava was 8 years old, so I got to meet Madhava when he was 8, and I went to his house, and his father said, "He likes music." He said, "Can you teach him some kirtan?" You know, it's this 8-year-old boy. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I did or if I did anything. So he's raised as a devotee. Maybe when he was 5 or something, his parents became devotees, I think. So he grew up as a devotee. But then, as happens to many teenagers, they kind of get lost. And so when he became a teenager, Madhava was always a humble person, but when he became a teenager, he kind of just, he was actually living, his parents were living on the temple property. And sometimes we would engage him when I would do Harinam with a few other devotees. And we would do, it was kind of complicated and nobody could play mridanga to us. He was the only one. But he wasn't really that engaged in Krishna consciousness anymore. He was kind of just off with friends who weren't devotees. And I left Mauritius I went back to Mauritius in 1990, and then I left in 92. So who knows when he came to Vrindavan? Do you remember? Must have been around 93, I think. Maybe. Anyway, so when I left Mauritius, I just knew a Madhava who was just kind of not really engaged in devotional service, and that's putting it mildly. So he was a little out there. And then, I don't actually know when he came here, because I came in 96, and he was here by then. And in 96, he's in the 24-hour kirtan, and he's like rocking and rolling. And you know what we say in English, a double take. Like you see somebody doing something, and it's like, that couldn't be Madhava. That's not the Madhava I know. And of course, we know Madhava today, what he's become, right? So there was this, for me, it was like the Aindra Tattva in action, that this Madhava boy who was just kind of out there, just, kind of a bit lost. And one of the devotees that knew him since he was a kid, Madhava just got out of high school, he didn't know what to do, and his friend, this devotee said, this devotee's also a kirtani, he said, just go to India and join Aindra. Madhava was like, all right, whatever, because he didn't know what to do. He had nothing going on. He was, raised as a devotee, but kind of not into it, and so that was amazing for me to see. How much he was affected. I'm friends with Amala's parents, so seeing him grow up, and so many of these devotees who are transformed. So I'm just, like so many of them, I can't even remember all of them. I knew when they were 5, 6 years old, and then I come here and they're all in the 24-hour kirtan, and now they're all over the world, and all they do is kirtan. Like Vishwambar, when he was interviewed, my wife did a film, they interviewed him. He said, like, why do you do kirtan? He turned to his wife, he goes, I don't know, I can't do anything else. I don't know how to do anything else. So it was, it was watching all these young boys and then getting this bug for kirtan. And like now in Alachua, I think Alachua is the next best thing to Vrindavan Kirtan, because so many of the devotees in Alachua were part of this Kirtan. We have one of them here, Aravinda. Krishna Kishore is here. And that's what I observe with Aindra. I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it. What can I say? It's just I'm watching this, one after the other. Then I travel the world. I go practically every continent. And everywhere you go, the young people, it's exactly the same. It's Aindra is their guru. They're chanting all the Aindra melodies, chanting like him, playing mridanga. Like I've been playing mridanga for 52 years. And I can hardly play compared to anyone who's been here and learned how to play mridanga. I'm just in awe. And That's really what I wanted to share with you. And again, remind you that you can be like Aindra, as Tapan said, if you're actually chanting the holy name purely, it will have an amazing effect on people. Let me tell one last story. It's not about Aindra, but about this point. I don't know when this was, but you know the group Premahara. You know Premahara? It's two devotees. Kamaniya and her husband. What's her husband's name? Keshavacharya. So, I was invited along with Yadabhara and Badahari when we were in upstate New York to Dr. Mishra's ashram to do a kirtan there. And Kamaniya at that time was a manager in that ashram. She wasn't a devotee yet. And Sachinandan came there previously and did a kirtan. And Kamaniya is a kirtaniya. And she said, when Sachinandan Swami was there, his kirtan was so pure, she said, I was embarrassed to sing because I felt in his presence that my kirtan was impure. Then another thing I like to share about pure kirtan, sometimes devotees say, well, we go to kirtans, you know, these yoga studios, and other people are doing kirtan who aren't devotees. Like, so what do we do? Do we go? Do we not go? No, we go and we chant the pure name. And then by our pure chanting, then other people will be affected. So I think I would just like to share that's the best thing to take with you. That I think Aindra gave you is how to chant the pure name. It's not a show. It's not for our own name and fame. But if we chant the pure name, amazing things will happen. And Prabhupada said, the reason that I was successful is I followed purely. And so, you can't do better than that. Thank you very much. Aindra Prabhu ki jai.
Radhikaya tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Jadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kolau Nastyeva Gatiranyata Sripad Aindra Prabhu ki. So we are very fortunate to be assembled here in Sri Vrindavan Dham, and we are here to celebrate the appearance day of Aindra Prabhu. He was a great Kirtaniya, preacher, wonderful devotee, fully dedicated to Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Radha and Krishna. The devotees like Aindra Prabhu, they are very rare, who are highly advanced in spiritual understanding. I had the good fortune to meet him first in New York. I went there for a visit, which lasted 3 years, and so I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with him, and I could immediately see, and had the good fortune to have a good relationship with him, very close relationship. He was like an elder brother to me, a spiritual brother, and so I could see immediately that he's highly advanced. He was absorbed in chanting the holy names. He was attached to chanting the holy names.
he was detached from this material world. He was extremely renounced in terms of as a Vaishnav, living very simple, simple dress, eating very simple, and only speaking about Krishna, not about material things. So it was in 1984 I came to New York for Rath Yatra, and then Aindra Prabhu left 1986 in January in order to attend the Go Purnima festival, the 500th anniversary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we had, by that time, 1.5 years, I had developed a very strong relationship with him, and we were almost every few days we were discussing transcendental subject matters about Krishna Nam, about the deities, since I was worshipping the deities there, Sri Radha Govinda, about Sankirtan, about the philosophy. So he was knowledgeable and he knew the Siddhanta, the conclusion of the scriptures. And also then he left to Vrindavan 1986, and I was still in New York and I was also planning to come back to Vrindavan where I had joined. But it took me 1 year in 87, then I came back and immediately I connected again with him and deepened my relationship with him. And I was in the Gurukul a little while, and he was doing his kirtan, and there were hardly any devotees, and he was putting so much effort, 6, 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours chanting the holy names. And I like to tell the wonderful incident which happened at one time. There was a need of some pujaris, and the pujaris were on strike, and then he was asked to come. And he was dressing the deities maybe for at least half a year. And he was dressing that not only he was so expert in chanting the holy names and the pure name, and changing the lives of so many devotees, inspiring especially also the youth, as devotees were saying, who were many times a little bit not sure what to do, but he helped them to be focused by chanting the holy names. So that was his greatest contribution. But then also in regards to deity worship, I had been worshipping the deities here in America, in Switzerland, in Europe, in Germany, and seen how other devotees dress the deities. And but how he was dressing the deities, that was very special. And because actually he had studied Prabhupada's books, not only Prabhupada's book, the Acharyas' books also, the previous Acharyas, as we had heard. He liked Brihad Bhagavatamrita, but other books where there are descriptions about Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So he was, which is very important, which is most important for chanting the holy names, to have the proper bhav. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the Braj bhav, and even more than that, the Gopi bhav, or even more than that, Manjari bhav. So with that bhav, he was chanting the holy names, but also in the mood of Mahaprabhu, of giving the mercy to all by the chanting of the holy names, and also by giving the philosophy, which is important. One must have some understanding, one must know the Siddhanta, the conclusion of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And similarly in deity worship, it is important not just to dress the deities, but with the proper bhav. So he had the bhav again also. And therefore, when he was dressing the deities were dressing, they were looking very beautiful, just like they were dancing. And as we know, Radharani is there in our temple, and Prabhupada used to say that Radharani, she's in dancing mood. And according to the hands, you can see sometimes Radharani is like this, one hand, the other hand like that. Ashivad Mudra, giving blessings, which is nice, and we need the blessings of Radharani. But ultimately what is most important is when Srimati Radharani is dancing with Krishna and all the gopis, Maharas, and one of the most wonderful pastimes. And so she's in the dancing mood, and one time Prabhupada said that if Radharani stops dancing, that the whole show is finished. And ultimately referring to the Rasa Leela, when the Maharaj, first of the Sharad Purnima, and so many gopis were there, and Krishna was dancing with the gopis, and then Radharani, she was feeling, well, so many new gopis are there who had just joined the pastime, so I want to be together with Krishna and my gopis, my friends. And therefore she left, and then when she left, then the Rasa Leela stopped. She stopped dancing, and Rasa Leela stopped. So Aindra Prabhu, he was fully dedicated to Prabhupada, and he had read Prabhupada's books and the previous Acharya's books. So he was very conversant with the Siddhanta, and he was absorbed in Krishna Lila. We used to go to speak to him in his room, and he used to talk for 2-3 hours non-stop. And sometimes we had to excuse ourselves. Prabhuji, it is time to, it is very late, I have to go, I have to do some seva, I have to dress the deities in the evening. Okay. But otherwise he would not stop. So he was dressing the deities very beautifully. And one time, so he was absorbed in the pastime, which is usually at noontime or at night time when Krishna is performing his pastimes and the gopis are there, and sometimes the gopis are stealing Krishna's flute. And then in Radhakund also, and one gopi has a flute giving to another gopi, and Krishna is running after the gopis. So he was dressing the deities very beautifully, and then he, as he was always doing, Saturday and Sunday was dressing. Well, for 6 months he was dressing every day. And then he was looking, if all the devotees were there, in Radheshyam's altar, as we know, first Goni died, then Krishna Baram, then Radheshyam. And then, so he had a big smile, like many times when he was there looking if everyone is there. So he had a very big smile and was wondering, well, what's he up to? And then he opens the curtain and we offer obeisances, and then we see the beautiful deities, Radheshyam. But then the devotee is saying, where is Shyamasundara's flute? And then we see Shyamasundara's flute is in Radharani's left hand. Radharani had stolen the flute. I felt wonderful. I thought, yes, so wonderful. But the devotees, there were some senior devotees, they were complaining, no, that should never be done. And usually we teach also, when before opening the curtain, you have to make sure that 2 things must always be there, the peacock feather and the flute. And usually we are conscious, okay, the flute and peacock feather must be there. And if you forget, that means you are in Maya. But with him it was the opposite. He was aware what's going on, and he didn't forget, but by purpose, he put the flute in Radharani's left hand. She stole the flute. And so we appreciated, but some devotees didn't appreciate, and they chastised him like anything, some silly devotees. And then the next day he was dressing the deities very simple. Okay, you want simple dressing, you have it. And he was so, it was, I guess, but it was surely Krishna's arrangement also. And after the dressing, he came to me, because every day we used to meet together. At that time I was in the Gurukul. It was a kind of, okay, but dealing with the kids was not really my bread. And I was looking for a change, and then it was in May 1990. And then he said, well, you know, they don't want me to dress the deities as I want to dress the deities, with some bhav. They just want rules and regulations, and I don't like it. If you want, you can, because I was dressing the deities in New York, and actually, by the way, 2 times the devotees had asked me to become head pujari, but I thought head pujari means headache, which is true, and I can experience, and since 13 years I have a headache here, I mean, taking care of the things. But at that time, anyway, he was just thinking, you can be Radheshyam's pujari. I thought, well, yeah, that sounds nice. It's better than dealing with the kids. All respect to the Gurukul boys, and I tried my best, but they're pulling your legs, you know. I mean, it was not easy. I had to deal with those who were 15, 16 years old, the boys. and they're trying to, pull your legs, and, you're trying to help them, teach them, and anyway, it was interesting, and they did it, but I felt more comfortable being with Radhisham, with the deities. So I said, yeah, sure, and then I became Radhisham Pujari, and then later on I became head Pujari after 1.5 years. So his contribution in deity worship was very important, to address the deities with proper bhav, and not just everything straight. Before, everything was straight in dressing the deities in most of the temple. The chadar straight, the crown is straight, everything is straight. But in Braj, everything is very beautiful, and sometimes a little crooked, like Krishna, Tribang Lalit Shama Sundar. So the dressing was, how he was dressing was just in Braj Bhav, and so that was another contribution, which was wonderful. And so I had some training from New York and other places, but Aindra Prabhu also helped me in this way, and yes, also his other contribution was the Siddhantas. He was knowing the Siddhanta of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya very well, and therefore he was able to chant the holy names nicely, was able to dress the deities nicely, and he was able to attract so many devotees and help so many devotees. And so we are so much indebted to him, and on this day of his appearance, so we pray that we may be able to also be absorbed in chanting the holy names. Sankirtan, as we heard, chanting together. But it means also, as Aindra Prabhu also many times he was saying, that yes, we have to chant together, but also we have to chant japa. And Sankirtan, as Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada used to say, Samyak Rupena Kirtan. To be fully absorbed in chanting japa, that is also Sankirtan. So Aindra Prabhu, he was very exemplary in his doing his kirtan with full absorption, but he was chanting so many rounds, as we know, not just 16. Especially during Chaturmas, he was chanting 1 lakh. And we know that in Purushottam Mas, sometimes he was trying to chant 2 lakhs, or even 3 lakhs. So he did. Okay, 2 or 3 lakhs. I thought it was 2 lakhs, but you were more closer to him maybe at that time. He told you. Okay, he never told me, but anyhow, no problem, either 2 or 3 lakhs. But anyhow, if he can even chant 1 lakh, it is wonderful. And and yes, and we can see, maybe he didn't have any, well, at one point he wanted to take sannyas, but then the devotees were saying, well, you're just saying here in Braj, there's no need for you to take sannyas. But then he was a sannyasi. Although he didn't have the danda, but in consciousness he was absorbed. And what is sannyas? It's not only preaching, but to be absorbed in gopi bhav. That is real sannyas. So he was really a sannyasi. And then the dress, which he was having sometimes, that is, of course we know, that is usually Babaji Vesh. He was dressed in Babaji Vesh, which is, okay, also the time is running out. Don't worry, the formality of Pushpanji we will do in a short way. Prasadam is at 3 April, clear. While we're following Aindra Prabhu, and you can go for prasad, but we go on with speaking or chanting the holy names and doing Pushpanjali. But if you're eager for prasad, you can go ahead, no problem. Anyway, we'll stop because the majority, they want to take prasad that is there, yes. Anyhow, I mean, you asked me to speak, and so I'm speaking a few words, and you cannot just shut me down. He was not giving official initiation, but there's Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru. And there's Akanda Guru Tattva. So it is mentioned Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Diksha and Shiksha Guru, they are one. And even, so Diksha is important, we have to take Diksha, and there's one Diksha Guru. But the Shiksha is actually even more important. If you don't just take Diksha, initiation, but you don't take Shiksha, then you will not advance much. But even if you have not taken Diksha yet, but you take Shiksha from a great personality like Aindra Prabhu, then you can make tremendous advancement in spiritual life. And so he was part of the Akhanda Guru Tattva. He was realized, and we can see, as if we see in the glorification of Sri Guru, and even Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddha is there in Nikunja, or Sri Radhika Madhava or Apara Madhurya Lila Gunu Rupa Nam. I'm already speaking about Radha and Krishna. That is the spiritual master. Of course, even Mahaprabhu Kirtan and Rita Gita is there and Gaur Lila is chanting the holy names and speaking about sadhana bhakti also to those who have need of that. But then we will try to bring everyone to the realm of Braj Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, as we know, and specifically the Madhurya Bhav. So, hey Guru, Jnanada, Dina Bandhu, Sananda Datta Kanarkaika Sindhu, Vrindavan Asya Avatara, Prasida, Radha Pranya Prachara. That is Guru, that is in Guru Stuti. Hey Guru, Jnanada is giving knowledge. Dina Bandhu is the friend of the fallen. And in Kali Yuga, everyone is fallen. We are fallen. By the mercy of Sri Guru, we can be uplifted. We can do Sanada Bhakti. And so he has come from Vrindavan, or is in Vrindavan, is giving his own bliss. And specifically is giving Radha Pranaya Prachara, is speaking about the love of Srimati Radharani for Krishna. So he's a perfect example of for bona fide Guru, although no Diksha Guru, but Shiksha Guru. But Shiksha is of utmost importance, so in order to advance in spiritual life. Sripad Aindra Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yaga ki, Hare Krishna.